very. It makes me very happy when I come to festivals like this that I see people that still like traditional music and not just you know, a loud bass and loud drums. It's getting rare to find people who like just simple old-time music. Everybody wants their cake with 20 inches of Cool Whip on top of it. But if the cake's good enough, you don't have to use Cool Whip at all. You don't need it. Ann wanted to tell some stories, and I was thinking earlier, someone was talking about Ken Fontenot, but his music, I guess everyone in here knows who Ken Fontenot was. He was a black Creole that recorded, he's been deceased now, I guess, for maybe 8-10 years. But he has some real fine records that you can get, some real interesting stuff. He told me a story once about a man who recorded back in the 20s. There's a record out in 78 that's real interesting. It was the first recording of the famous song called Les Flammes d'Enfer. And was mentioning Austin Pete just now. But Austin Pete recorded the song The Flames of Hell, which was real popular in Louisiana back in the 80s. It got to be real popular. The song came from a man called Douglas Bellard, who had recorded this back in the late 20s or maybe early 30s with a guy by the name of Kirby Riley. Both were black Creoles. And it's interesting because the accordion player, the accordion was recording in the key of D, and the fiddle player was tuned down to the accordion in the key of C. And they played together and they recorded this 78 record and never realized that they were totally out of tune. And nowadays, you know, you need 20-piece drum sets, you need 50,000-watt bass guitars, and you need 20 instruments in the band to entertain people. Back in those days, 2 instruments that was totally in the wrong key sufficed. You know, where did we go wrong, folks? Where did we go wrong? We think we have to have all that crap, if you excuse my French. But nevertheless, the fiddle player that played in this record was a black Creole by the name of Douglas Bellard. And he'd been to the penitentiary for murdering his father-in-law, would you believe? Life was real hard in those days. Everybody worked in the fields. That's about the only way you could support yourself. There was no Silicon Valley or things like that back in Louisiana. So if you wanted to sustain yourself, you had to work in the fields. That was about the only. And all that hard work from sunrise to sunset, I guess, had a very souring effect upon people. It made them vicious. It made them mean, ill-tempered. And this argument broke out between Douglas Bellard and his father-in-law in the early 30s in the field while they were hoeing cotton. And Douglas Bellard took his hoe and hit his father-in-law in the head with the blade and, of course, killed him and went to the penitentiary for this. And everybody was deadly afraid of Douglas Bellard because he had killed this helpless old man. So when he got out of the penitentiary, yikes. When he got out of the penitentiary, you know, again, he was considered a very dangerous man, and everybody feared him because he had killed this. Actually, all he was a bully. So one day, there was this something like this little speakeasy. It was during the days of Prohibition when you weren't supposed to sell alcohol. Ken Fontenot's father had this little speakeasy out in the country, way out in the country. He made a gumbo on Sundays, and he'd open up this little joint about the size probably of this tent here, and you could go in there and play cards, and he'd serve gumbo, and he'd sell illegal booze. So one Sunday, you know, all the people were having fun at this place. They were eating and drinking, playing cards, and they heard outside a few pistol shots. So they looked out the door, and they saw it was the horrible, infamous Douglas Bellard coming. And of course, everybody, you know, cringed with fear because this man was supposed to be such a dangerous person. But again, I just want to remind you that he was a very, very bully. But the real dangerous person was Ken Fontenot's daddy, a man by the name of Adam Fontenot. Very quiet man, didn't say much, but a very dangerous character. So everybody ran out of the beer joint, you know, fearing that Douglas Bellard might shoot him. So Douglas Bellard comes into the joint and sits down at the table and hollers out real loud, put his pistol on top of the table, a big 45 pistol. He hollers out real loud, said, "Bring me a bowl of gumbo," to Adam, the owner of the place. So Adam gets up real quiet and didn't say a word. Went in the back and got a bowl of gumbo and brought it back, and Douglas Bellard was sitting down, just think of the way I'm sitting right here. Put the bowl of gumbo right in front of him on the table. Douglas Bellard tastes the gumbo and spit it out and says, "This is so hot, I feel like killing the man who brought this to me." And remember, his pistol is right on the table. So Adam Fontenot leans over. Douglas Bellard had been butchering chickens and his hands were not too clean. He leans over Douglas Bellard and takes his hands in the bowl of gumbo and does this in the gumbo. And he whispers in Douglas Bellard's ear, "It's not too hot, eat it." He ate the gumbo, put his fist in his pocket, took off, and that was the last I ever saw of Douglas Bellard. So it's not what you say, it's I guess how you say it. I always thought that was a good story. Okay. No, let's do something else speaking of the story. Let's do Hey Mom. We can do it in D.
Any of you have my book, there's this really great old song called Hey Mom. And it's about this man, Mayus Lafleur, wrote it because he was an orphan. And he'd been looking for his mother forever. He finally found her. And he was about to meet her. And he was at a
speakeasy?
A speakeasy, like a little lounge, and they were drinking. And some guys, what was it?
The truck that was delivering the booze, again, this was during Prohibition, the truck that was delivering the booze backed up against the porch. There was no bars or clubs in those days. It was just a house that would open up way in the middle of nowhere and would sell this illegal booze. The truck backs up, the old Model T backs up against the porch to unload the booze and accidentally breaks one of the posts that's supporting the porch, and the owner got in a big tough, you know, and shot and killed one person. And Mayus Lafleur, who wrote this song, went to see about the guy who was dying on the floor, and the owner shot and killed him also. So this is it's a true story. It's very sad.
It was like the second 78 that ever came back out, and he was just about to find his real mother, and it was a big. And so he had written this song about his mother, and he died before this record came out. So you could hear him saying, "Hey Mom, where are you? Hey Mom, I've never seen you. Oh Mom, I'd really love to meet you one day." And that's what the words are of the song. And people could hear this song on the 78 after he was dead. He never got to meet his mom.
And then if any of you have Ann's book, there's a story in there, but it's a reprint of the Eunice New Era newspaper from Eunice in 1929. And it's I can't quote the newspaper article word for word, but it says, the title of the newspaper is, it says, "A voice of a dead man thrills those in Eunice who yet understand and speak French." And this was in 1929. I mean, it gives you an example of how our culture was downplayed and how everything was, ridiculed and pretended. The Anglos pretended that it didn't exist. That was in 1929. It says, "For those who yet speak and understand French." And today, there's still a million people in Louisiana who speak and understand Cajun French. You know. So
yeah.
What are they trying to tell us? You know, it was. But okay, let's play the key of D. I'm going to do the 3 parts.
Lisa told us to tell stories. You're asking for it, Lisa.
Yeah, this is an unusual song because it actually has 3 parts. Most of our music has a A and B part. This has an A, a B, and a C part. So it's one of these real complicated. Okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go along. I think the best thing are those that are spontaneous, don't you?
This is on one of our Savoy records if you don't have it. I think it's on Live at the Dams, maybe.